Yes.
Hello, me lovelies. Well, you should
Hello.
see the drama that's just been going on behind the scenes, literally lastminute.com. I sent a link to both Christine and Heather, and it didn't work at all. Now, what's that noise that I can hear?
Sorry, that echo was me. What?
Oh, those was my headphones going off again. It was
total
going
amateur.
So anyway, to introduce people to you, Christine Clark,
Hello.
first of all, giving it a quick introduction to the viewers.
Okay, I'm trying to get straight here on my camera. There we go. I'm from the United States of America. My name is Christine C. Clark, and I am a victim of cyberbullying and cybercrime. I diligently reported to the law to end my victimization, starting with law enforcement, all the way to the FBI, National Exploited Children, NCMEC. It's really important to be diligent in reporting, keeping good records. And ic3.gov is the FBI link that you go to make a report to stop cyberbullying.
Yeah. And so, Heather, do you want to give it a quick introduction to yourself again?
Yeah. Yes. Hello. I am Heather Turner, and a year ago, I just I wasn't on YouTube or anything, and then I got like made into an internet conspiracy, and I did experience some cyber bullying and harassment myself. Nothing near as a cyberbullying for me what really wasn't on my radar per se, and then a version of it happened to me, and yeah, so I might be like a little bit late to the party on that, but now have been hearing, the stuff that I experienced was very jarring, and it was parts of it were scary, because you gotta try to figure out if the people who are doxing family members and you gonna show up to your door, how crazy and radical are these people. But it was a fraction of what I've heard people, getting death threats, having to go to the FBI and this kind of stuff. These are really serious levels. So yes, while I have experienced cyberbullying myself, and I don't want to downplay what they did at all, but
what is
I have there's just horror stories, total horror shows out there. So I really thank you, Christine, for coming on and talking about this very serious level of what we call cyberbullying, because some people just want to brush it off and be like, oh, it's just people, they just make comments, ignore it. This is not what we're talking about. This is when it goes to an extremely dangerous and criminal level.
That's why, Christine, why I'm pleased you came on, because it's your level takes it into the stratosphere. What happened to me and Heather was all contained in a bubble and really it didn't go outside that bubble unless people within that source area, how you have a true crime, and unless people are watching that true crime, they won't know the scandals that are going on. But yours went right outside, didn't it, this, and went into a completely different stratosphere. But just explain what actually starts happening to you.
Well, it was a former relationship, and he created a website, which is still being investigated by the FBI, wherein he and other accomplices are still threatening murder upon me, stalking me, trying to get me to commit suicide. They went out with malicious intent to ruin my life, attacked me and my cyberly regarding my education at California Baptist University, which I've had to take a break from. Uploading images. He had a hidden camera in the bedroom when we were still living together, uploading images of me in my nudity onto the internet for public humiliation. Just getting into all of my information and putting it out there on the internet for cyber criminals to actually gain access to, just with malicious intent to ruin my life. And it's all been reported. I did bring it to the justice system, and pursuant to the sheriff's department where I live and their advice, they told me to get a restraining order, and the district attorney's office of Riverside County in California created or actually made it not just a family or domestic restraining order, but a criminal restraining order, which specifically says, no websites. He's not allowed to cyberbully me. He's not allowed to upload images of me, yet he's still doing it. And many of these cyber criminals and cyber bullies and people that cyber victimize people think that they're above the law. They think they won't get caught. And they don't realize the power of law enforcement in their investigative process. They don't realize the power of the FBI and their investigative process. And they will catch them and they will bring them to justice.
Yeah, they don't care if they go after women and children. Once they decided, like, you're the enemy, they don't care if they get your great grandma, your cousin's kids. They don't care. They will, like, go to earth to get whatever it is that they think that they need to punish you for. You know. So I was just wondering, because you're dealing with this in the United States, and we've been over here mainly with the United Kingdom, and luckily in the UK there are much more extensive protections for things like the Equality Act, around harassment, certain kinds of hate speech. So I'm wondering, dealing with this from the United States, and I know we're like real gung-ho about our First Amendment in a way that is actually kind of unacceptable in parts of Europe here, but actually really unacceptable in parts of Europe. So I'm wondering if you've come across, like, how long did it take to accomplish what you accomplished? Did this and do you think the American system and free speech had anything to do with prolonging that process or anything like that?
Okay, I know that, it takes time within the justice system to be resolved. I reported right away. The sheriff's department doesn't really, or law enforcement, local law enforcement, you have to report to them first and then go to ic3.gov and report to the FBI, especially if hate crimes are being stated, threats, stalking, murder threats, suicide, trying to get people to commit suicide and things like that, because as we know, people have died from being cyberbullied. It's very serious. However, I reported it all very diligently, but it takes time within the justice system to be processed. And also, in my case, as a victim, the perpetrators are defying the FBI and not shutting things down. So perpetrators out there need to realize this. It's very important. Not only are they committing serious crimes, but they better obey law enforcement in stopping what they're doing, because when they face justice, they're going to have to face the fact that they will be prosecuted for all of the crimes they've committed against a person or person, and also if they defy law enforcement and the FBI, that's going to be looked at very harshly within the judicial system. But in the United States of America, I believe it does take probably more time than in the UK. I know that laws are stricter about that where you are, as far as what I've read.
See, in the UK, it's not we don't have this fascination or obsession with the freedom of speech and your rights and stuff like that. It's always been, and in Europe, it's not just the UK. I think it's just the Victorian ideal, everything has to be proper, everything has to be in its place. So it was defined very early on what was acceptable and wasn't acceptable. Like if someone puts out images of you naked, that's a crime straight away that they'll be pulled for and arrested, and they can't save time for. So the definitions here are much, much broader, and it's in the UK as well that the move is being made, which you'll most probably find Europe will start copying as well, or going into, where they're threatening now social platforms that if they ignore complaints, valid complaints of cyberbullying, that what's going to happen is the platform will be held to account. Now, that happened in my case with a person who had suffered from the same person. And what happened in that was, I went to my local force, Merseyside Police, and of course, because this person was from America, what do you do? How do you find them? And if you find them, what can you do? Because the offense has happened in his country, not my country.
IC3.gov. IC3.gov. It doesn't matter what country. If they're in America, if you're from another country, you can report to ic3.gov. That is the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. And the one thing, sorry to interrupt, along that same vein, if someone says things on the internet, and we're talking, you mentioned free speech, or uploads anything without your permission, that's obviously a crime. But if they set out with malicious intent to ruin your life, there it goes. There's no free speech there. You're acting out with malicious intent, and that's very clear within the laws of the United States of America. Not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
You see,
but I was also wondering about, sorry to interrupt, because there is a bit of a piecemeal system in the United States. So what, even when it comes to like physical abuse between two people, whether it's a man and a woman, sometimes what's harassment and stalking and what the police will act on is different from county to county.
Exactly,
so it's actually kind of reassuring to know that they will just say like, nope, if there's malicious, and we do have malicious communications here. But I was wondering, like, before some of these counties and some of these places in America, it takes a lot before they will go, okay, we've got to act on it. Like a lot, like basically. And when I was told in my case, when I talked to the police, because I didn't know, everyone had anonymous names. Some of them were in America. Some of them were in England. I didn't know what was going on. A pop star, an ex-washed up pop stars involved. And the cop didn't even believe. He was like, how do you know it's Brian Harvey? And I was like, because his name's Brian Harvey. It looks like Brian Harvey.
Heather, I don't want him and his little minions kicking off. Because honestly, he's gone so quiet at the moment. But I know what you mean.
Yeah, it was very weird for me.
That's interesting what you say.
And then the cop was like,
Heather, just let's finish this off, because what's happened is we've gone forward before the line has actually been finished in one side. That's it. What I was saying was that with the way the UK government's acting now, what they're going to do, which Merseyside actually did before the government actually brought in these changes. I went to the Merseyside police and I said, look, this platform, the one we're on, was doing nothing about it. I said, compared to what's happening to you, Christine, it's absolutely pathetic. Totally pathetic what was going on, but it was really getting to a ridiculous state. So they said, all right, they said, what we're going to do, we're going to crime the platform itself. So I got on some and they said, right, I said, here we are. They've crimed you. If you don't sort this out, I wasn't telling them to take anyone down. They made the decision to take them down. But the thing was that how you've found now the thumb down has been hidden. They won't show you how many thumb downs are being counted. I can't be certain, but I think that's the start of we're going to put in restrictions, because, of course, people use a lot of the time, or can do, that thumb and down to try and ruin a person's channel. I mean, you can still thumb it down, but people don't see it, so it doesn't become a trend. But yet, the UK is making moves to do what they're saying is that you can have an anonymous account online. This is what the UK government is talking about. But you have to give your real details to the provider, the platform, so that if you do start breaking the law, guess what? There'll be a direct link and they can get you, which I think is the only way to go, because it's getting to, as you say, there's people that can die in this situation. And it doesn't have to be an absolutely astronomical. It can just be picking on someone at a vulnerable moment in their lives. I mean, the things that were said to me, another channel now, which I won't name, who was connected and still is connected to this character in America, they're all trying to be all love, peace, and support. We don't bully now, which is making me giggle, because I had to listen to them slagging me off for everything, dragging me down. And also, the minute my dog died, they were using my dog as ammunition, laughing, jeering, ha, 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 ha. Your dog's in hell and all this business. And you think, but remember what I said to you, Heather? Do you remember what I said when we were talking about it? Because we were both getting down by all this going on. Because you do get down by it. And I said, no, Heather, said, we own them. We own their lives. We own the thoughts, because they're obsessed with us. And also, they've put it out there now. So it's up to us whether they can move on and, you know, become, I don't know, pillars of society. Because at any point, one of them, I've said, could try to go into politics, could try to become a community leader. And there in the background is all the evidence say, here we are. We can literally put that in the public and say, that's what that person's really like. That could then, so as I say, the victim starts owning the perpetrator when that happens. Because we're living in this cancel culture now anyway. But just sort of say that. So Heather, go on, what were you saying before that?
Oh, I was just got a bit of on a side loop about how like ridiculous it was for me to, and scary, you know, because you do have to again weigh up like, I don't know these people. I called Chris Mr. Scene. You don't know that I called into a radio show during lockdown, and I commented on something, and then I guess I don't know what I said or the way I came off. They mistook me for a bunch of different people. So within about 3 weeks, I find like an ex-British pop star, like in hours of content, like threatening to put my address out and all kind of stuff. So yeah, I called the police and other channels that are still involved in, you know, they're still floating out there. They went down for a while, but yeah, the police was like literally like, well, how do you know it's
Oh, they don't be when they
how do
do
you
that.
know it's English Justin Bieber or whatever? And I was like, because it says it is, and it says it's English Justin Bieber, and there's his face, and that's his channel, and he said he would investigate. They're like, nope, we're not going to investigate. And then I sort of felt a little bit, because I was talked to the cyber crimes division, so I was like, yeah, cyber crimes division, CSI, you know, Lucian police station. And then I had to like explain what doxing was, so I just felt completely unsupported with that. And but luckily that's all for me. Those channels I've taken off material offline, and this stuff I've had all YouTube legal, remove personal stuff. But it's a difference between people who are like this is like a personal life thing, what happened with you, Christine, which is like really, really vicious as well, because the power that a partner can have over you, and then a revenge P, you know, this is like really, really disgusting territory. And, you know, I stumbled into a situation which I called, and then I got cyberbullied and stuff like that. You know, I went on the show, but it's, you know, they didn't have to, you know, dox my extended family and threaten me. But that is like completely different when it's like someone that was an intimate partner or a friend or family. And I was actually looking up cyberbullying statistics, and shockingly, a huge chunk of people are cyberbullied by people they know. Most of the time, it's like not strangers. I could find probably the exact percentage from this, but it's a shockingly high percentage of people who are cyberbullied by people they know. It's not like me, like strangers I don't know. It's more likely to be a friend in school if you're a teenage kid or a child's age, something like that, a partner. So that's like it's kind of like a hidden pandemic in a way.
Right. Yes.
So Christine, have you got anything to add to that?
Well, I like what you said about reporting directly to the website. That's really important to do probably first, and then go to local law enforcement. And as I said, ic3.gov, especially when hate crimes and murder threats and suicide is being, you're being told to commit suicide. That kind of stuff is stalking, and that when people's lives are in danger, you definitely need to go to the law, and they are there for us. And it may take time within the justice system, but the perpetrators will be brought to justice as long as we diligently report.
See, that's a yeah too. But one thing you said, Heather, which got me, was that with the police, I've always said this in the UK, my God, it can change. Though you're saying from state to state in America, it can change. God,
sometimes.
In the UK, it's the same. It's the same law. I mean, I've never worked this out. One force can have a completely different attitude and understand from another when it's exactly the same laws that are being provided for. But I find that you'll go to one, and fun enough, Merseyside now are really, really good at, say, they're one of the, especially when it comes to hate crimes, They're the ones that are more or less, they understand it much, much more. But you can go to another one and I have to explain to them. I say, no, you can't say. One I get, you'll get a loss is, what are you watching for? How do you know they're saying that? What are you watching for? So I say, excuse me, if anyone has to report it to police, remember what I'm saying here. And they go, well, how do you know they're saying that about you online? Because I've gone and looked. And I know where it's going. Then they say, well, don't look. And I always say to them, you know, you're victim blaming now. I said, you're victim blaming. And suddenly to go back to think, no, God, we're victim blaming. I say, yes, because you're putting the blame onto me. I said, of course I'm going to look. I said, if something's out there about me, I'm going to look. And it's a crime. At the end of the day, it's a crime. And I said, you as a police person, and they said police enforcer, we don't use that. Law enforcer, we don't use that term here. But I said to them, I said, also, you're telling me as a member of the public to ignore a crime that I've seen. I said, would you do that?
I think it's towing the line of media companies, though, because they'll tell you the same thing. And Facebook is even worse, because back in the day, because I've done, social media marketing and stuff, but way back in the day, if you had a problem with content on Facebook, you could write someone and you could complain, or a lot of times, sometimes it was just technical stuff because their pages break down and have bugs. So you'd have to write someone and be like, here's the problem, here's some screenshots. And when it comes to harassment through Facebook, they don't do that now. For example, if you have content, there's something I saw on Facebook that was like a 3-hour video, but something in it was like, and I went to report it. And it was just like a little button you could push. They don't even do what YouTube does, which is allow you to write what the problem is at the timestamp. Yeah. It's just report it or you don't report it. And then somebody's got to sieve through that. And how are they even supposed to know, well, at timestamp 2 hours, 15 minutes, blah, abuse happens or whatever. So part of it is these platforms, it's so much easier to just toe the line and say, just don't look at it, because it's exactly what Facebook and Twitter and YouTube will tell you. Just block it. Don't look at it.
Yeah, but the thing is, as I always say to myself, that's basically blaming the victim then. And they also wake up when they realize that you say that. Yeah, it's like, because they can't be bothered dealing with it. That's the thing. It's like, oh, well, which you can understand, because I can remember when I was at the police and the internet was not as big as it is now. You get people coming in all the time, and you'd be like, if we police this, that's all the police would be doing. Would be policing it 24/7, and they just haven't got the resources to do it. So unless it's getting to a serious level, they won't have anything to do with it. What they'll do, and when you know they're not going to do anything, is when they say, we'll report as harassment. That's when you know they're going to do sod all, because it's got to happen in English law. You've got to have 3 consecutive events before the Harassment Act will kick in. And even then, trying to get it to the CPS is a nightmare. And that's a nightmare, because you know what the CPS will turn around and say? They'll say, well, you've got to be traumatized. You've got to be distressed and alarmed. And they'll say, have you changed your phone number? Have you changed your email? Have you changed your YouTube account? Have you changed this, that, and the other? And the person will turn around and say no. Oh, well, you're not all that traumatized. And that's how they get out of it, which is disgusting. That's how they do it. Oh, they know the little tricks of how to, and CPS are always doing that.
Well, half the problem is there's no legal definition of cyberbullying in the UK, as far as I know. There's actually no legal definition of, things that constitute cyberbullying, but as far as I was looking at,
it comes under the heading of, they'll have a heading cyberbullying, but it's put in with malicious communications and harassment. So they're the two it usually comes in. If they say malicious communications, you've got a chance. But if they say harassment, you're getting nowhere. That's it. You can guarantee that's going to go absolutely nowhere, even though you keep on records.
One precaution I did take. Oh, pardon me. One precaution that I did take, I want to interject right there, because I knew the person and was in a relationship. Though I had left for my safety, I filed a domestic violence restraining order. due to the threats. And because of the nature of all the threats and the uploading of my nudity and the criminal invasion of privacy and public humiliation and all of those crimes that cyberbullying entails, the family law judge looked at the perpetrator, the defendant now, and said, you will probably face criminal charges for this. And in fact, that's what happened. The district attorney's office put a criminal restraining order in place that specifically says no cyberbullying, no websites, no public humiliation, on and on. So all of those things I made sure I was protected for. So when he does go on the internet and throw something on Facebook, which has happened, or do something on a website, and people that I know, at least 2 people have found things on the internet and screenshotted it to me, and I send it to the sheriff's department. Then the sheriff's department sends it to the district attorney's office, and thereby those are restraining order violations, which they will face charges for. So that's one way. If you know your perpetrator, protect yourself and get a restraining order.
And is that one that because I've had to do ex parte before when I was a much younger lady, and it was like 5 years or something. It wasn't like they don't do like definite. Do they put a limit on it, or do they allow it? Is it indefinite kind of thing due to the level of harassment?
It's a 3-year restraining order at this point. Excuse me. And if I continue to need protection, then I would just go before the court and ask for it to be extended, depending on the circumstances. Yes.
Yeah, because this is the issue with it. The internet has to start as well policing it itself and start to take action, because you mentioned Facebook, Heather. I find them a completely waste of time. Totally. If anything happens, total way, and Twitter is not far behind them, but Facebook is just absolutely a joke. They really don't. They just don't care. They don't care what's going on there. And as you say, you can't put in a full report, and there's no way to go. They've set it up like that. They've set it up so you can't raise issues.
Different.
It
used to be easier.
And Twitter also has changed, because the perpetrator, in my case, had put some things on Twitter way back, like a few years back. And I reported it to Twitter, and they took it down. They actually took down the posts. But now, if you go on Twitter, I think it's difficult to find a way to report if I'm correct. You
can report it, but I was absolutely disgusted with Twitter. I got a John from this other channel now that's trying to be all, love, peace, and we don't bully and all this thing now. They someone from there was coming at me, literally stalking, letting me know that he was stalking me by following me on Instagram and trying to follow me on Instagram, knowing that I knew he was, and knew he was the one skipping me Drogyne and calling me for being insects and all this business. So this account came on. He somehow got hold of my old account, put my name on it, my real name, and Drogyne as well. It was more or less saying that I'm not safe around children and all this business. So I was reporting, I said, this is horrendous. Not interested. But the one that really got me, and I went mad and actually put it on Twitter, said, this is absolutely horrendous. There was another account from the same, I'm not saying it was the same person. I don't think it was him that was doing it. It was someone else came on. I just wanted, oh God, where's that gone? Wanted to address this. If this is who I think it is, right? I know there was a fake one, because I know you'd never say that. Someone said something horrible about the 3 of us. I'm not going to repeat it here under the name Lord Nibbler. But I know from Lord Nibbler in the past, he won't stoop, or she, shall I say, won't stoop to making horrible remarks about people in the way this person did. So I know that you didn't say it, Lord Nibbler. But anyway, as I was saying, I got horrendous hate speech. Oh God, it was horrendous. And I reported and they said, oh, no violations. So I got right back to them and said, you are actually saying that hate speech isn't a violation on your channel. Just couldn't win with them. Couldn't win. So I put right out there, said, you want to come out with vile hate speech, do it, because Twitter condone it. It was absolutely
Mm.
horrendous. I've
Wow.
never looked at Twitter the same way again. At least with YouTube, you can have a battle sometimes, but YouTube will. It depends who you're lucky enough to get. If you get someone that is, you know, absolutely interested in the issue and wants to make a safe place, they will act. But then you get someone else that won't. You know, they'll just like the police do. You see it on the police, they'll fob it off or they'll take it seriously, whatever happens. But anyway, I've been gone.
Or they'll just say, "Oh, it's a he said, she said. You're just as bad as each other, or whatever." But I mean, particularly in your case, Drogyne, and I don't know if this is the case with you, Christine. It's just the sheer volume of stuff that they can produce, and it becomes exhausting. Like it literally, if it's your job to go through it, like I said in our case, when you go to the police, they aren't gonna be like CSI for you and like give you a little squad of techs that are going through everything for you and logging it all. Like it's TV if you think that. It's your responsibility to go through and log it and report it. They don't like there's no there and you have to do that. And that, you know, it's really hard to work to do that for yourself and just be like, oh crap, here's another one, screenshot. Oh, here's another one, private details. Like it wears you down after time. And I wonder, Christine, if you, having gone through the whole spectrum of it, if you can talk about that and how you what anything you've done when the trolls are getting the best of the trolls. You were talking about, these aren't trolls, these are malicious people who are trying to destroy your life. But I think you know what I mean. It's just they put out so much that it's like a chore, like a total chore on your end as the victim to have to go through that and process that. But that's the reality.
It absolutely is. I've actually, wow, it's been a 2-year journey, and I have kept really good records. I have a really good rapport with law enforcement in both Riverside County and Orange County, continuing to just anything that I see that comes in, I make copies. I call a deputy out. He makes the report, sends it to the district attorney's office. Constantly, and if people send me things that they have seen, same thing, reporting, keeping in close contact with the deputy district attorney, just being really diligent. That's been a journey for me. Just continuing to report as anything comes in, constantly doing. And you're right about that. No one's gonna go out and do, an investigation on every little thing for you as far as local law enforcement. Now, the FBI, they have ways of tracking people, perpetrators, and finding out information that the regular layperson doesn't have access to. So that's why it's really important to report to the FBI through ic3.gov. But you're right. Constant footwork, constant record keeping and reporting. And that's been a journey for me for 2 years. It's really hard.
It is. It's hard, and you just have to hope that it just blows over in the end, which sometimes it can do. It just burns itself out. They get fed up themselves with it, and you think, there we go. I know in your case it didn't. That was like that's where it goes to. In your case, Christine, it's gone to I'd call it I would name it. It's not normal human behavior. Normal human behavior, yeah, we can get angry at people, we can bite at people, have a little dig at them. But then you go on your way and you just think, there we go. I mean, I've experienced it over the last week. Someone had a little snipe at me that I've had past issues with. So I went back and had a little snipe at her. Is it going to turn into a full-blown battle? No, you just say, there, you like children, basically. You've just slagged me off, so I'm going to, have a little go at you as well. And that's what it is, but it doesn't turn into this huge cyberbullying event. That's the thing about it. But in your case, it went to a completely different level. I mean, it was either, it sounds horrible to say, but you said yourself, death or whatever. Is that the only way you can get away from us? It's a horrible thing. That's horrific what happened to you.
Yeah.
Well, and cyberbullying, it seems to be like there's no one stereotype of who's gonna cyberbully, and it's, from what I was reading, obviously very young kids, they're much more at risk of being cyberbullied, particularly like, being driven to
Gotcha.
suicide and stuff. But, you'd be mistaken to think, oh, it's all just teenagers, because it's not. Like, I'm continually shocked by the kinds of people who cyberbully, because you think, well, they just seem like all ages, all backgrounds, and I think that's kind of what makes it more difficult in a way to bring awareness to it, fight, because there's just like, there's not like, just a guy with a mustache over there and that's your cyberbully. Yeah. It literally can be anyone from almost any background, and I don't know if it's because of what about the technology allows people to behave in these malicious ways without barriers, or maybe believing, like you said earlier, that they think that there are no consequences.
That's it.
But it seems like you can have anyone of any age. They could be a man, a woman, a child. And is a kind of a, I don't know if you educate people more or what it is about if it's just how society is, but it's really disheartening in a way, because how can you bring awareness to cyberbullying when we almost don't even know, like, who's going to be cyberbullying? Who's going to be the cyberbully?
It's also, as well, the difficulty is, and this happens, and I agree with people when they say this, what can you define as cyberbullying? It's very subjective as well, and that's the difficulty with it. One person's cyberbullying is another person's freedom of speech. Now, I have seen that, and people have accused me of saying that I'm defining what is freedom of speech as cyberbullying. No, I don't. I've always said this, and I don't know how many times I have to say it. You can have an opinion that someone doesn't agree with, or I might find a bit bigoted. Let's say if it's talking about LGBTQI people, I might think, oh, that's a bit bigoted sounding to me. But it's not a hate crime, because what that person turns around and does is they back it up with their rationale. Maybe say that it's religious reasons and they're giving a religious argument. As long as they're saying, well, I don't, and they're not passionate with it, and they say, well, I don't believe that's right because of my religious views, even though I might think, well, that's a bigoted thing to say, they're backing it up with their logic. They're not saying it to hate me as such.
Exactly.
But when someone comes at you and they're making the most horrendous personal remarks, and they're doing it to hate you, the one that always amused me, Christine, and Heather, is this always makes me laugh. And I got this the other day. When people put man, MANN, hi man, Drogyne, and all this, or they'll another one, and I will pull him on this because he's really got up my nose recently. Prince Atwood, shall I call him? When I had that argument with him in the podcast the other day, he turned around, and when I went, he went, oh yeah, Andy, and started calling me Andy, right? That's another little slice. And people do this because they think, I don't know why, Christine, they think I think I'm a woman. I don't. My God, I just have to look in the mirror and say, I don't look, to me, I don't look like a woman. All right, I've got I've got a physical female attributes, but you're talking about easily over 70% male. Genetically, I am. So I'm under no illusion that genetically I'm male more than I'll ever be female. But they think they're doing that, but the intention is there to hate, and that is cyberbullying when they're intentionally doing that. And they'll always go for that low dig. And that's why I say about Lord Nibbler. I've had, with different people, had different, issues over the past, over falling out with this one, that one. But it's never gone for that low dig, no matter how bad it gets. And that is what I say. So the definition to me is cyberbullying, and we'll have to go through what each person thinks this definition is. The definition of me cyberbullying is when the intention is clearly there to cause upset and distress. But if someone says something like that, it's either, and it can be out of ignorance. I don't know how many times people use the wrong word because simply they don't know the right word. And I think it's awful when people attack them for that, because you get that a lot. The terminology is changing all the time, and people will go, "Oh, you're bigots because you used the wrong word." No, they'll usually turn around and be horrified when you tell them that they've used the wrong word. But it'd be nice to know what each one. So, what do you think, Christine, about what's your definition of cyberbullying?
Cyberbullying is when you set out with malicious intent to ruin someone's life. Hate crimes being spewed, murder threats, telling someone to commit suicide, attacking their personal information and posting it on the internet with malicious intent to ruin someone's life. When you intentionally do all of those actions intentionally to hurt somebody, that's cyberbullying. Cyberbullying, yes.
What's yours, Heather?
Well, basically along the same lines, but I also think on the internet, there is this phenomenon of, along lines what happen. People like to go around and sort of like a little sort of, I don't know, like self-prescribed detectives or something like that.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of an obsession sometimes with finding, a lot of people are anonymous online. So there's a bit of an obsession sometimes with uncovering anonymous accounts, which is what happened to me. I got accused of being accounts that are anonymous that I'm not. And so, like, how am I supposed to prove I'm not this? Yeah, I would have to like show all my bank statements, everything to show no way possible that I could be these people you're accusing me of being, much less even being on the internet at the same time. But actually, it's a fairly dangerous thing, because somebody could end up cyberbullying you, and the intent isn't necessarily clear at the straight. It could just be misidentifying somebody. And there was actually, in the true crime podcast realm, there was a very major true crime podcast I will not name, but it is headed by an ex-police detective. And when the Gabby Petito case went on, I was following this channel when this happened. I saw it with my own eyes. They accused a handle on Twitter of being Brian Laundrie. Now, we know Brian Laundrie committed suicide, like, not long. So the entire time they found this anonymous handle, this retired police detective who had like 65,000 people on YouTube following him, a retired police detective, and accused this handle of being Brian Laundrie. And this went on like quite some time. The channel went down. The person running the channel was encouraging people to call like law enforcement on this handle. Turned out that the handle he was accusing of being Brian Laundrie was also a retired police official. So, and this guy got massively harassed and cyberbullied. You can go onto Twitter and look it up to this day. He's still got things pinned, but this channel went down, came back, took off everything on the channel, calling this person Brian Laundrie. And they're still going, and they've got more followers than ever now after pulling that. And that's also the problem. It's like, what? How, you can't even stop big producers on YouTube. They could do this, and again, like, that man's life was completely upended because tens of thousands of people thought this guy was like one of the most wanted men in the entire United States. So this is dangerous too. This idea that you want to out people, we've got him. But what if you get someone that's the wrong guy? Like, and then you say it's like, maybe that podcaster didn't have the intention of ruining his life and causing him death threats and all of this harassment, but that was the aftermath. That was the immediate effect. And that podcaster's never apologized or nothing. They just have gone on with their life acting like...
Yeah, nothing happened. Oh, Heather, the aliens have got you. You're frozen. But the internet must be going. Oh, God. But yeah,
nothing's happened.
Oh, we'll go.
So many levels. Either this interpersonal thing, or you have the sort of teenage bullying, or you can have these things like that just from the culture of the internet. People who have done nothing being accused of horrendous things, and then therefore getting the harassment that's sending the mob towards a target. That's what happens.
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
Judge, jury, and executioner style, you know?
These detectives, right? This is what gets me online. Detectives. Now, I always say about the internet, right? I've met some or seen some of the most amazing people with the detective work, and if they only applied to work in a police force and got up to the rank of a detective, the crimes that would be solved would be amazing. But you also have really sloppy ones, and they think, oh, I'll look at this, and they stop that person, the singer, the ex-band boy member, who goes on, he links things, and it looks convincing, parts of it, what he's saying, but actually when you dissect it the way a real detective in a police force would, you start finding it's all coincidental links. It doesn't actually lock, it's coincidence, and that doesn't create a fact coincidence. It just is that by chance these relationships happen. So you get people, and they'll see one thing, they'll see another thing, they link it together, and they come out with this theory. But what they're doing is they're destroying someone's life in the process, and they couldn't give a damn about it. But what makes me laugh, I was so enjoyed doing this video about this woman. There's a woman related to, the ex-boy band member, he's supposed to be all against, children being in danger from adults. That's the line he spins. Really, what is he wants £1 million for his phone being hacked, but that he's hoping that will attract the attention if he talks about things like that. But she was going on accusing people of being, dangerous around children and all this business, his little friend. Mm-hmm. There's a video out there of her talking. I'll mention his name, John Wedger, talking to John Wedger, and she says blatantly, the bare face, I thought, my God, that she used to get young girls from the stations for a senior police officer, and they'd give her £500 for each one. Now, £500 in the 80s and 90s was a hell of a lot of money back then. So she was getting, I'd imagine, pretty young girls, runaways, to satisfy this officer's needs. And yet that cheeky has gone out and started labels. She hasn't labelled me, but she's labelled other people being dangerous around children. And but she thinks she's some detective. She isn't. And that's the danger that happens. They destroy real lives. And sometimes it's going to end up with, when you don't know this, still think, how do we know how many people do end their life because of cyberbullying? We don't know. The records kept. I mean, this is what gets me about, I'll say this about the UK, which it doesn't keep up with America on this. This is a bit of a sideline, but shows you the difference between the two countries. In America, they keep stats on how many police or law enforcers, you call them there, how many law enforcers died because of suicide. They keep stats on it. The UK refuses to. Won't keep stats on how many officers actually take their own lives. And I remember when I was working for them, you'd always see when it came up on the internet that an officer had passed away, would say, suddenly, unfortunately, and suddenly passed away, and you'd think they've taken their own life. And it wouldn't be an unusual occurrence as well. But you wonder how many people do take their lives, and it's not actually established that, or they didn't know that it was because of cyberbullying. Could be astronomical for all we know.
Yeah, and like again, I think on that you if you're going to hear about people committing suicide because of cyberbullying, it's almost always again going to be the younger teen kids, younger people who just really couldn't. Just the level of harassment and bullying they were getting was just too much to cope with, and so again, it's a kind of a bit of a problem because it's a little bit like when you think about the problem of cyberbullying, it is maybe more skewed in some ways towards stereotypes, like we're talking about. But we all have different cyberbullying experiences, and I've certainly heard stories from other people as well, where you're just like, the tools for people, if you are going to be a malicious, like, I don't know, like a psychopathic type or someone who's particularly sadistic, all the tools are there for you. And there's not a lot of stopping you on these networks. So driving someone to the point that they kill themselves, I think it's going to go. Well, do we have any statistics on it? But I'd be willing to bet you it's people all over the age spectrum, because because we're so responsive to how people think of us, of how we think of ourselves. The kind of self-esteem you have, and then suddenly if your life blows up and there's like thousands of people or tens of thousands of people like want you to die or saying all this horrible stuff, then you think, well, you don't think there's a way out of that. I could probably see how like a lot of people would say there's no way out of this, my life is ruined. I'm gonna live to be like 100 years old and everything's ruined now. So I mean, like, this is really, I think I wonder for people who are at that brink with the cyberbullying, if they're obviously there's suicide hotlines, but is there like a way, what's the journey out of it? Is there a way you could say like there is a way out of it? There is a light at the end of the tunnel, whatever that is, I mean, yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but I mean, for that precarious situation, that's clearly the only way out. Whereas maybe part of education and awareness is saying there is a way out. There is support. You can cope. You can move on with your life, even if 50,000 people have just told you to go kill yourself. There's a way. The way out is not killing yourself. The way out there. So I don't know. That really worries me. So just to end that little sort of side rant, but I think this is probably more widespread, and there should be better statistics on it. But
I mean, it's a good one that Fion's made. There was so much bullying at my boarding school back in the late 80s, mid 90s. I can't even imagine how much worse it would have been if we had had internet, social media, etc. back then. Now, that's an important issue because I mean, I can remember the 70s.
I went to high school too before that, so I'm glad.
Yeah, so there's no internet or anything. Now then, and I've always said this, gosh, people got bullied. I was very, very lucky. I never did. I was very, very lucky. But people, of course, got bullied. But the thing was, it was either when you were going to school or coming home from school or they were out with the friends, people got bullied. Once they went in the house, the bullying stopped. And that was it. There was no, unless they were serious bullying, but, you didn't hear of that. And people didn't speak about it, but I can never remember young people taking their own lives. You might hear of a teenager once in a blue moon, unless it was covered up because it was a taboo back then. I must admit, taking your own life was a real taboo back in the 70s and 80s. You just didn't speak about it. So it might have been covered up, but I can't remember young people suddenly disappearing that I knew, or vanishing, or dying. So I think what it is that now it follows you everywhere. Yes, it's in, especially young people, it's in their life continually, and it happens online. They can't walk away from it, and that's the horror of it. It will follow them. It's absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, well, and much more of your status in this life is built around what's on the internet. You know, so much different than like I said, you could go home when I was a kid, you could go home and maybe there's some people still talking crap about you somewhere, but it's not in my pocket going bing, bing, bing. Yeah. But then so much of your status in this life is what's your CV online, what's your, your pictures, your vacations, so much of that is that's what the world is being built around. So I mean, it's not, the kids being born, it's not their fault. That's, it's not their fault. They're being, brought up in a world where there's instant gratification and being like, fairly I don't want to say narcissistic, but there's a lot of narcissism being driven through the technology, and that breeds a lack of empathy and a detachment, and how much easier it is to just be so mean to somebody where you're not. Like if you're in person and you say something bad enough, someone might just slap you.
That's what I've said. I've said that.
There are these social consequences to your behavior. If it's bad enough, you might, maybe it's a dirty look, maybe people cut you out. But with the internet, you could be as awful as you want. And that doesn't mean you lose your friends and you're all alone and you get dirty looks, or someone actually just goes, you know what? Teach you a lesson. You just go find more nasty people like you and like gang up in a little group of psychopaths and carry on just fine.
It just this is it. It's just you can't. That's it. Will just. This is what gets me about it. It's just the relentlessness of some areas of it when it goes on. I mean, you can turn around. Someone was saying before, just block, but they said, does it go on to another a platform when you do? Oh, go to another level. Sometimes blocking is enough; it will stop it. But other times, it's just someone that's having a mood and they want to get at you, so they'll say something nasty. So you just block them. That's it. That does it. But sometimes, well, your evidence of that, it does go into hyperspace if someone is really, really determined to get to someone. And it's scary because you think, I mean, we all want to be, don't we? We all would like to be important to people. But to be important to people where it turns into an absolute obsession, that's when it's like, no. And people do become obsessed. We got that, didn't we? Had that from the American podcaster. It became an ongoing
hours
obsession.
And hours. And actually, I thought some of it for the maturity level of it was almost like teenage girls. And the vast majority of the people trolling and with the overlap of myself were like middle-aged men or men in their 40s with families and stuff. And the kind of stuff they were doing was the kind of stuff that was like cliche things that you would see teenage girls do, taking pictures, photoshopping people in sexual situations, I was like, this is like if you went to school and you opened up your locker and all the mean girls just put posters of you and it was almost this kind of level, or dressing you up like a Nazi, or telling people to en masse anonymously report you to the police for racism, shit like that.
Yeah.
Sorry. I just really, I mean,
it's just ridiculous.
And I know it's like some of it seems so silly, but it's not when it is relentless, day on hours and hours and hours of this stuff. And then that encourages other people to hate you too. They go, well, you're clearly Anne, I didn't talk to Anne for a couple months because I didn't know what the deal was with Anne.
Yeah. And
I don't think Anne probably might have in the other way. Anne might have thought, well, who is this? She seems to be, because if you look online, you would think, oh, you're terrible people. There's so much terrible things about you online.
It's what I found interesting what you said about, schoolgirls. I mean, this is my view. I said a long time ago, I say men become, when they get into cyberbullying on YouTube, they become teenage schoolgirls. They do. They'd never do it face to face with someone. And that's where we're bitching and all that. What it is, what boys tend to do and males tend to do in their everyday life when it's face to face or whatever, they'll have their arguments, they'll get aggressive, whatever. It will go on, then that's it. It's just like they'll either continue to dislike the person, and if they see them, they'll call them this, that, and the other. But you find teenage girls can be relentless. They hold on to it when they don't like another girl. And they really hold on to it. And when you see some of the cyberbullying that does go on from men, and we're talking about fully grown men with children, some of them themselves.
Yeah.
They are like teenage girls, really, getting in there and won't let it go no matter what. Whereas if they were doing it in real life, they wouldn't be that, I can't explain it. It's like a schoolgirl they turn into. And we're seeing this happening now. That as we speak to someone, I won't name him, very controversial character at the moment. He's getting accused of being all sorts. Whether it's true or not, only the police can find that out. But it brings out someone, this is it. I wonder why I was saying that. It's because this person has this YouTube community guidelines allow parody, commentary, etc. Teen and drama channels use fair use, and some daily videos negatively criticize the same larger YouTubers.
Yeah, I think
there's a difference on cyberbullying.
Look, there is a difference between cyberbullying and whenever you're a content maker and you put something out on a public platform,
Yeah.
and you that means people can watch it and use their own eyeballs and their own brain to think about it and talk about it. Now, there's a cottage industry on YouTube of tea and drama channels. Where it's crossing the line is when there's hate speech, when it's relentless, when it includes name calling, when there's a definitely malicious intent to take you down and destroy you. Even if that's laughing about your dead dog or calling you a freak because you have an intersex condition or like saying you commit, like in my case, they accused me of having like a criminal record. Okay.
Oh,
and then,
yeah.
you know, and then they put up false arrest records from all these other Heather Turners living in like Delaware. Oh, yeah. So they would, you know, they doxed a woman, they put up a woman's passport. You know, this is like the kind of stuff. And so I think what I don't like is when people have channels where they might have an opinion that you don't like, and very strong opinions, but that's not cyberbullying. You might not like the content, but there's a difference between abuse and hate and malicious intent, and that's what we're talking about here with the cyberbullying. We're not talking about trolls or someone saying something online that is a bit like, oh, your face or something. Okay. You know, this is a total different level where there's a maliciousness and a sadism to it.
Yeah,
and
that's the difference.
In our case, a bandwagon effect where other people are encouraged to jump in. So that's a campaign essentially. So I wondered in Christine's case, did you have that bandwagon effect as well? Once the person who was cyberbullying you put that stuff out, did that mean other people now felt entitled to attack you?
That's exactly right. Now, I also have a very common name. I don't have a criminal record at all, but they try to justify their behavior by putting up false information, stating false information regarding medical records, health issues, false information regarding your background, and trying to justify their malicious behavior and their criminal behavior when, you know, there's no justification for it. Let's be super clear about that, because no matter what someone has done, you are not allowed to, with malicious intent, ruin their lives. You're not allowed to post things on the internet about somebody that's private information, that's criminal invasion of privacy. You're not allowed to do that. You're not. And there's consequences for that, and they will be prosecuted for that. Those are additional charges that they will incur.
See, it's Christine, it's such a mixed bag as well of confusion and how do you actually get to the bottom of it. And that's what gets me, because it's like what I do. I mean, people have accused me, said to me in the past, you're a troll and all this business. What I do is I like playing. I play with people when when I take issue with them, it's the theatrical background. That's it. From a child brought up in the theatre. That's the way we used to play with each other. We'd be funny. And then they turn around and say, oh, you're a troll because you've made this video calling someone else out. But calling someone out is not the same, in my mind, some people might agree with me, as cyberbullying. In other words, you're not putting the address out there, you're actually referring to something they put out themselves and sticking to that, what they've done. So these parody accounts where they go on, because there's a few out there, some of them do go.
Yeah, they did one of my cats. They decided they even spoofed my cat.
But they can go into areas that you think.
My cat was like, oh.
Yeah, some areas are just like they go overboard. It becomes vicious. There's one that did one about me, and he started calling me a Satanist and a devil worshipper.
Oh,
and saying that, and of course, then it got to the bigotry. Take the makeup off. What is it? What is it? Now, I'm not going to get upset or annoyed by that, because you just have to listen to him to know he's either got an alcohol problem or he's got a drug, one or the other is there, and it's wrecked his brain, because you can tell by the way he goes on. But that's taking it, that's trying to cause offense and trying to cause, hate to someone doing that, even though to me it just bounced off me. I thought, well, do I care what someone that sounds like he does and goes on like he does care? But some people would take that really to heart.
And there was another person along with this. For some reason, there was a trio of us that got all sort of like singled out by this particular person, and they did like a podcast calling us all Karens, and one of the people was it's like a very small presence on YouTube, just speaking his opinion, not being nasty, not being hateful, and they repeatedly homophobically slurred this guy. I think I got in one episode like 30 times in a row using a very specific homophobic slur. So it's like, well, you're not if you're criticizing his content, then you don't need to like call it the equivalent of the F word essentially repeatedly. That's not you want to talk about tea and drama channels. That's not that's clearly abusive. That's clearly abusive, because you're only picking on one attribute, much like they did with you in the intersex. So they will frequently attack you for that, and then go, oh, we're not attacking her for that. But it's very clear if you've watched the material, like that's exactly what they're they're calling you a freak. They're calling you an other. They're treating you as an other, and like that's hate. That's hate.
Well, what got me?
It's not fair commentary.
I mean, I don't know if you saw all this at House of Christine going on, but one thing this person also did, and his group of minions, was they kept on sexualizing me. That's what creeped me out more than them making the insults about me being intersex.
And only the men. And only people they perceive as men, such as yourself. So they never sexualized me, and they never sexualized me.
It was just me
and this
gay.
You and the gay man.
The gay, and also they did it to aim showing that with his camera. Started sexualizing him as well. But I said,
which is wrong.
I don't know whether I've mentioned this before. I was talking to an officer now. And this was when it was all going on. I said, just look, I said, what he's putting up there about me. And I said, what he's saying about me. And it was all me raping another man, basically, or having sex with another man. And he said, he wants you to take him. And I went, thank God you said that, because I was thinking at the same time. He said, he's running that through his mind. And it's true, because of the simple fact, why would a heterosexual cis male who's only attracted to women want an image of his head of me having sex with men? Why would he constantly have that in his head?
Oh, and not only have the image in his head, go through the effort to Google all the things so that he can Photoshop you in various situations. And it goes back to the sexual humiliation. This is the tactic of the cyberbully. We're seeing it displayed in different ways. With you, Anne, and it worked in that way. With you, Christine, it worked in that way. Yeah. Now, they never sexualized me, so I have not experienced that. But I think, if they had gone that way with me, then I don't know how I would have reacted to that. I did also react with, because I worked in media and stuff like that. And when they started putting stuff out, some of it was like ridiculously stupid. So, I did react with humor as well. And that also pissing people off, because they're like, you think you're laughing at it. I did find that laughing at them does help, because they don't really seem to like to get laughed at, because they are ridiculous. And it was some of the worst attempts at blackmail I've ever personally seen. Some of the stuff they're putting up with me, particularly because they misidentified me. So I wasn't capable of doing any of the things they wanted me to do. Because even they wanted me to take down videos, take down strikes. It was like, I didn't put up the videos. I didn't give you the strikes. So it doesn't matter how much you dox me and my family and threaten me. You can't get the result you want. But the sexual humiliation is what I'm picking up here. What is it about the cyberbullies that's what they go for?
Well, in this case,
why is that? That is really gross, right?
It's dehumanization. That's what it is. And I person said that actually on this channel, You know, the one that's they hate truth. They always have to wear truth in it, don't they? That anything but the truth. Everything's twisted to their narrative. But they were saying on that, you know, about, do you know, it's just gone right out of my head what I was going to say. What was the saying just as you ended? What did you just ask me, Heather?
Oh, I was just talking about the sexual humiliation angle and how that seems to be a recurring theme in the cyberbullying, and what a sick tactic that is, you know?
Yeah,
but humanization. It's a way to dehumanize and humiliate and
dehumanize. That's it. What it was, one of them who, I know who it is. Well, I know it is because he had his name up there on there. That's got a long criminal record from when he was a kid. He said that he dehumanizes me because he likes dehumanizing me. But what do we know about this person? He's a lifelong alcoholic. So he's been, I say, in trouble, I don't know how many times, for harassment and allegations of stalking people, especially women. Now, when he's looking at me to dehumanize me, he's wasting time that he could be using looking at himself and curing his own problems. And that's what they start doing. They deflect and project. They start looking away from themselves, because if they look in the mirror, it's too hard work for them to sort it. And in this case, with the American podcaster, with this constant obsession with sexualization, especially me, is I cottoned onto it. I thought, he is in the closet. And that's why I said at one point, he wants to come out and liberate himself. There's no way. Look, I don't sit around, right, with an image of my head of a woman having sex. I don't. Women do nothing for me. They don't attract me. I can appreciate a woman for being aesthetically beautiful, but that's it. Women don't attract me in any sense of form, never had. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't want to be thinking about women's bodies, because to me, they're of no interest. Mm-hmm. But when a man is doing that, thinking, sexualizing, but it was obsessively going on about having sex with men, you wouldn't be able to hold that thought. And tell you one thing that the boy band member said. He kept on saying,
that would be the same boy band member that just. This is how weird is. Sorry, Christine. I mean, how weird is this? Is I don't know if you. But I mean, it's a totally different situation, but how weird it is to find yourself you're a nobody, and then some washed up ex-British pop band person is now online threat. It's almost surreal in a way. And I think that's also part of the cyberbullying, is when you see, it's almost surreal. You're is this real? I don't know if you had that in your case, Christine, where at some point you're just is this even happening? Am I crazy? Am I having a stroke? What is this?
No, I always felt clear on who was doing it and why they were doing it. Obviously to bring me down out of jealousy and spite and out of retaliation for leaving the relationship, whatnot. However, the sexual exploitation aspect of it, where they dehumanize you and humiliate you. In my case, I think it went along with they're trying to get me to commit suicide. If I can bring this person down so low and hit her to just take away all of her self-esteem, even her human rights, along with her civil rights, maybe she'll just commit suicide. And that's what his goal was to do, was to ruin my life and end my life. And I obviously will not let that happen. I'm standing strong. I am reporting. I have getting support with family and friends and my church, and just staying strong, because that's really important to know, because they try to alienate you. They try to humiliate you so bad that you're afraid to walk out on the street and show your face. That's what they're trying to do. It's all with intent, and it's very meticulous what they do as far as humiliating you, alienating you, getting you to a point where you feel hopeless. And that's scary. It's scary. And that's when people commit suicide, when that happens, because they feel like they have nowhere to go and there's no way out of their victimization. So it's important.
Yeah, it's just a abuse pattern as well. And I'm glad to hear you have support. But if you don't mind, I'm going to have to nip off for 1 minute to go grab my power outlet because my computer is going to die. So if you give me a moment, but yes,
Yeah.
I'll be right back if you are still going on. But yeah, it's really glad to hear you have that support. And that guy sounds like he's got everything coming to him. And it sounds like, unfortunately, you're the one that's keeping him from doing this to someone else, because as hard as this was, and he tried to stop you, but you didn't work, and you just kept going. And now that guy hopefully is he's not going to be able to do this to someone else. That's like,
exactly.
no
exactly.
more victims,
No more
right?
victims. No more victims. Yeah. That's right. He has been a great example in reporting and helping people find their support throughout when the law is taking control, and when the justice system and the whole process, it might take time. Making sure someone has a support system to stay strong is super important. And I know not only was very diligent in reporting to end my victimization, but to prevent other people from being victimized. And I hope that I will continue to speak out so that we don't lose anybody else as a victim to cyberbullying. It's so tragic.
It's horrendous. It is. And you just have to, I say, you've got, that you can go to your church and support there. I know there's a lot of people that won't have that support, and especially with the church, if they're not into that kind of thing, they struggle. And I don't know what it's like in America, but what puts me off, and it really just put me off, Christine, is and I'm not just talking about Christians here, I'm talking about organized religions. There's always the proviso that they'll help you, but they're going to convert you at the same time and to their belief system. And I think that's what shelters a lot of people, because a lot of people are either atheist or they don't commit to any one belief system. They have the spiritual beliefs, but they don't actually define it in one thing. And I always say to myself, where did they go? Where did they go for help? And we have in the UK the Samaritans that people can phone up. I don't know. People do say they're very good. I don't know. I've never used them or spoken to them. But people do say they're good. But I think the worst thing, and I'm glad that I can mention this, is online YouTube, what I call Job's Comforters. And this really, because I studied counselling, how to become a counsellor. I never went through the full one because it ended up being it was like, you felt like you were being used and ripped off by these council organizations. But on YouTube, you get people setting themselves up as what I call Job's Comforters, in that they're offering, I support people with mental health issues. I support people who struggle, and come to me and we'll talk about our issues online, and I'll offer you support and all this. They're not qualified. They've never done counselling in their life. And literally what they're acting as is like a buffet. They've got good intentions. Let me put it this way. They've got good intentions. So I'm not slating them, saying they're bad people. But counselling is such a long training because it is a profession. And I hear people turn around and saying all the time, I'd be good. People say to me, I should go into counselling because I help solve people's problems. No, that's not what counselling is about. You don't help them. You don't help save the problems or sort the problems out. You get them to a position where they sort their own problems out. That's what you're doing.
True.
And you have to be very, very careful. And the reason I call them Job's Comforters, because of course in the Bible you had Job, who was afflicted by the devil. God allowed the devil to afflict Job to see if he'd be faithful to him and stay faithful. And some of Job's friends came round to basically offer him support. And they ended up basically telling him, when supporting him, that his life was basically hopeless and rubbish and he was a sinner and all this. He was being punished because he was a sinner and all this business. So they were making it worse for him when supporting him. And this is what happens. If you come to me and you tell me your life's terrible, you can't see a way out, you're all this, that, and the other, it's so easy to turn around and say, I understand, and start sympathizing with you, and it's right for you to feel that way. What I'm doing is I'm confirming in your mind your life is rubbish by saying that. Where a counsellor wouldn't say that, they'd let you go on like that, then they'd start. It's a very complex process, and it's a very highly skilled profession to go into. A good counsellor will never confirm or deny what you're saying to them as being reality, because also people will see counsellors, and a counsellor can't take it for granted that that person, what to tell them, is true at the end of the day. So they can't confirm or deny it. So people be very wary of going online to get help from someone who isn't qualified. Please don't do it. And there has been one nasty, which I don't know whether Lord Nibbler's still about. He should remember this. There was someone online who did set himself up as this sort of like, come to me if you're suffering. And when it all blew up for him and turned nasty on him, he threatened to release people's private details.
Oh my goodness gracious. That's terrible.
Be very careful, people. I just thought I'd stress that. Straight away. But I'd like to know, Christine, about what do you get from this support that you have?
Well, just making sure that you don't let yourself be alienated, that you definitely, because that's what the perpetrators try to do. They try to make the victim become alienated, just driving them down in so many different ways to the point where they could commit suicide. So it's just what I get from being social and my social vein at this point, because I've alienated myself a lot from the social things I used to do. I don't go have a drink with my girlfriends anymore. I'm not on Facebook posting selfies anymore because I don't want to be, bashed. So a lot of things have changed. I'm not out there like I used to. So I am home a lot, but I've made sure that I'm close to my family. I keep communication with my family about everything that's happening to me so that they're aware of it. And I choose my people that I contact with to be part of my church because it's positive, and it's also maintaining a privacy at the same time I'm out there being able to be social with the people that I trust. And so don't you let yourself be alienated when it's happening to you. Definitely the reporting has to be done, but don't let yourself be alienated, because if you get driven down with depression and that, then it becomes dangerous, and we don't want to lose anybody to cyberbullying ever again.
No way. It's
It takes a lot to stand up, and not be the one. I think the cyber bullies are like bullies in person, except their tools are augmented and magnified in ways that are impossible in person. And a bully is only waiting for the next bully to bully them down. They're either looking down, or they're looking down at who to smash down, or they're looking up at who they need to, kiss booty to be higher in some. But the bully, what the bully doesn't anticipate is someone who isn't going to take their crap and is going to go, I'm not going to take it. And, there's advice online how to deal with it. And some things are like, well, don't do this or don't do that. It's up to you. No one knows how they're going to react to cyberbullying until it happens to them, and what their reaction to be, if they're gonna shut down. Because I've been contacted by other people who were bullied by the same people as you and me, and also other I've been hearing stories, and some people they just ended their life online.
I know.
They just close which is sad. I hate that. I seen that happen too.
No one knows how they're going to act, and it goes down to victim blaming and all this stuff as well. It's like, you don't know until it happens to you how you're going to react, and you're probably going to go through the up and down, like reacting to it. Some days are going to be better than others. But I think it's so important, like you said, Christine, to have someone to talk to have support. When I was looking at cyberbullying statistics, it said something like 38% of people who have been cyberbullied just stay quiet and don't say anything because they're embarrassed. because
Well,
they're
this is it.
embarrassed.
And sometimes you don't get it, because I was brought up in a family where, you know,
And the
don't bully
bullies,
people.
they bullies think you're
Yeah, but they say, you know, it's also how you're brought up. Are you going to get that support? I can tell you about my family, right? And my members of my family. If I turn around and start going on, oh, I'm being silent, they don't know quarter. And I don't know quarter of what they've had to put up with in their lives, because it just wasn't discussed. And the thing was, you always had to have that smile on your face, and you couldn't bore people with, because I remember saying, are people interested? People will be interested in what you're saying. And so I tend to do that. I might tell people, oh, yeah, this happened, that's happened, but that's the end of it. I won't labor it and labor it. And I think that's also the thing of the English stiff upper lip that we have here, that still is prevalent. I mean, we are loosening up more, because America, you know, the way it used to be, you won't know about this, Heather, but it used to be funny when the talk shows from America first started coming over and being broadcast in the UK. We were like, our jaws were dropping. Oh, they're crying all the time. What are they crying for? You know, and they were all on these chat shows crying and all this. And, oh, this happened. And that was totally bizarre to us. It's like you go on a chat show and talking about the personal details on a chat show. It's like, oh, no, you don't do that. Now we're catching up with that. We are catching up with it. But at first, it was a complete culture shock. You'd no more go on a chat show. Even crying in public was frowned upon. You couldn't do that. Oh, no, people would move away from you. But I think that's a lot of it. But I'm just the type of person I won't talk about it. I might mention it, but I won't talk about it to people who are close to me or around me, because I think, no, I'm not going to bring this into my life, and I'm not going to affect my life, and they can't do anything for it. But if I had like a society to go to and discuss it, yeah, that would be different. That would be a completely different matter. Then I could go in and discuss it. But thankfully, it has got to the point where I thought, oh, this is terrible. But I'm the type of person I just say, right, you have to get on. I say to have, but again, Christine, I haven't had it as serious as you had it. That's a different situation. And you never know until you're in your situation just what I would react like that. I wouldn't know.
And but I also think it's like I did have a sense. I felt like bad, like you said about, like, you know, and talk to your family about it, and I felt like bad having to like break it to people, you know, in my family that they'd been, you know, doxxed and stuff, and they like made us, because I'm from the Ozarks and all that, so you know, and I'm Cajun, so they picked on me. They picked on a hillbilly for being a hillbilly, which is like quite funny, because you're like, oh, you think I haven't heard hillbilly jokes? But yeah, they made this video of my sister, and they took her face and put it on like a fat lady from People of Walmart website, and they made like a video going, I'm April, I'm trailer trash, and all that. And I had to like tell my family, like, this is, and then they sent it to her. Someone made a sock puppet on Facebook and sent it to her just to make sure she saw that. And and I felt like really bad, because like I was like, these people don't need that in their life. We're just like country people. They don't need this crap in their lives. They're not even on YouTube. And I felt really bad that like something I had done online had brought those problems to them. I'm like, they don't need that. They already, like, you know, we already live in the Ozarks. We already have, like, you know, we're just like you know, a bunch of Cajuns and farm people, man. Like, they don't need that in their lives. I felt so bad. So I don't know if maybe like you also have a sense of that, like if you had to have that conversation with your relatives, whatever that was, and like that feeling of like, oh my God, rightly or wrongly, again, it goes back to, you know, I know it's they were the ones who decided to do that, but I felt bad that I had to like bring that to them and be like, sorry, like,
no, would not in my family. I'd get the blame. I'd get the blame if that happened. But that's not that they're doing it as. It's not that they're being spiteful or nasty about it, or they're being horrible when they do that. It's just the way the family unit I was brought up. But I was brought up in a very, as I said, my whole life was set out from a very small child. Literally when I was 5, that's it. You're going into ballet. That's your future. I didn't question it. I was the type of child, well, most people were then. You didn't question your parents. When your parents told you did something, you did it. You didn't even question it, even though you didn't want to do it. You didn't question it. And, oh, God, the idea of raising your hand to your parent, oh, that you'd be socially outcast. That would, be an outcast. You couldn't do it. But, so I grew up with this, you have to hold it in. And of course, my job entailed having to present myself as this ethereal thing moving on a stage. And that had to carry on off stage. It had to be shut your mouth, speak when you're spoken to, and everything's roses and beautiful. You couldn't talk about back then, and to an extent, ballet dancers still try to avoid talking about this now, about how difficult it is, about how painful it can be, and about the real depressions you can go into when you're just not getting where you need to go, or something's not working. Like anything else, you get glitches where you're not going forward with it, and you have to get through that barrier, and it can get really, really, you can get very depressed because of it. And all dancers do. Well, you weren't allowed to talk about anything like that because you were there to entertain, and people weren't going to see you to see a sob story or to see a tragedy or to want to know that you've had to go through years of training to do this. They're only interested in, which is right. They're right in what they were saying. They want to see pretty little things flitting around the stage. So I was brought up with that attitude. So I carried it out into me everyday life. But then when I left, of course, it started changing. I started finding my mouth more then. And that's when I started getting very opinionated because I thought, no, I've kept my mouth shut. I had to for years because of my job. But then I started talking. And when I started talking, I never shut up. That was the problem with me.
Also, I wanted to mention that, sorry to interrupt, in my case, we're talking about family members. My 10-year-old daughter was also exposed by these cyberbullies. And so that's where I had to contact the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children regarding images of her being uploaded onto the internet, all to try to destroy me as a parent. So yeah, that happened. Also,
that's about as evil as it gets,
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And also reaching out to my former husband, getting his information off the internet and calling him on the phone directly and saying things that were untrue, complete false accusations about me to try to get into my family directly to try to destroy my self-esteem and just to bring me down completely. And actually, my former husband provided a sworn declaration for the district attorney's office about that incident. So, in doing so, yes, it caused me hardship and pain, humiliation, and embarrassment for him to do that and reach out to family members. But my family members, because of being so supportive, provided in that case a sworn declaration to the district attorney's office, which will count obviously against him.
That's
in that regard. So.
Sounds like you messed with the wrong people.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I'm
saying this guy messed with the wrong people because luckily they've all got your back, and when he's tried these tactics,
correct.
then it's totally backfiring. So yeah, it sounds like he just went with the wrong person, trying to being a victim. And I'm sorry it's been so hard for you. And I can only, again, imagine that this guy is hopefully going to be taken off the streets at one point and be able to not be able to do this to anyone else, because that level of malice and evil, my God, that it's just shocking. Like truly what people are capable of sometimes.
Oh, people can
go to those links, but
yeah, this
is on his record now. This is on his record now. He cannot just keep going and pulling this.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly. Yeah, I definitely got involved with the wrong person, but he definitely has victimized the wrong person because of my level of strength and my knowledge about reporting and being diligent about reporting and my family support. Yeah, definitely. So you're right about that. Thank you.
Yeah. I agree with that as well. It's just that's it. It's as long as people can get support, but it's worrying when they don't get support. And also, what I was thinking about, just occurred to me about cyberbullying. Sometimes you get someone and they may have mental health problems and they literally don't know. And I've noticed that in the past. I think this person is talking out of frustration here. They don't know that actually what they're doing could be viewed as cyberbullying. And that's another area you think, how do you help someone like that who they're feeling so much pain that they're just hitting out at some, or they'll have a condition. There's nothing you know. Knowing on the, you find it on the autism spectrum, where someone, they can't accept any other view but their own, and they can't understand why everyone doesn't agree with that view. And sometimes they can get really aggressive if someone doesn't agree with them, with everything they say. And you think, how can you hold someone accountable when it's actually part of a syndrome or a condition?
Yeah, like authoritarians, just very authoritarian kind of people, want to control other people. But, I've seen that kind of stuff too. Like in my case, they tried that kind of stuff with me. They one of the guys, they figured out my housing organization, because it's not like exactly a secret, because there's like Guardian articles written about where I live. So, so they tried to elicit information about me on the internet, tried to find people to, these are strangers. I didn't even know these people. They didn't know me. And so, they published like the phone number of my housing organization and encouraged his followers to call that number. And no one ever did, because I'm my own landlord. So if they would have called the number, I'm just like,
but why do that? It's just,
it's like trying to do that. And then they were saying they wanted my information so that person could make a police report against me. And I guess they never did make that false police report, because so that was a kind of like this is like the kind of things that are actually what happened. Earlier when I described a true crime podcaster who falsely accused a anonymous handle on Twitter of being like a dead guy, of being Brian Laundrie. This is the same stuff that they pulled on this nomadic trek. So that guy didn't really even do most of the abuse and the cyberbullying. It was his tens of thousands of followers who were the ones doing the posting numbers, posting things. And, he also did some of that. So this is some of the things that you see in cyberbullying online, people posting numbers or addresses, trying to encourage other people. It's trying to herd other people into these things. Well, I'm sorry, if you're one of these people that does this and you see a phone number on Facebook and you call that number and leave like a harassing voicemail on the other side, like you've done the dirty now. Like you so I don't know. Some of it is people whipping up other people to go do the dirty work, and how aware they are or aren't of that. I have to think some of them are perfectly aware of what they're doing. But they're not doing the dirty work. They're just inciting people. They're leaving the blood trail. They're leaving all the information for someone to get radicalized and think you're already dehumanized. You're already scum. You're already accused of whatever many crimes against humanity you've been accused of. Now here's the bread trail to go and find that person, track that person down, like call their place of work, call their partners, send videos to their sisters. It's the followers that do the dirty work in this kind of realm.
Well, this one person I'll have to get on soon, because I keep on saying to him, he's so busy, is Ian Puddock. Now he knows about that. He's had to put up with that horrifically, Ian Puddock.
I'm not super familiar with Ian Puddock.
What was that?
Oh, I said sorry. I'm not super familiar with Ian Puddock. I know, but
no, couldn't hear what you said. No. What it is, he's had them contacting his workplace and its employees, and it's like, when it goes off YouTube, that's when it gets too serious, as far as I'm concerned. I don't care what you think of the person, you don't take it off. One thing that happened to me with the American podcast, as a joke, and Heather, it was as a joke. He sent me photographs of Stephen King's estate in Florida. And I just said, oh, I'll have to get on to Stephen King and find out who he is, right? It was a joke, like Stephen King would give a damn if I said to him, well, could you tell me? Yeah, he's going to say, oh, can you watch out for this driver? He sounds like this, you know, like he's going to do it. But he ran with that and accused me of trying to dox him. I didn't. It was a joke at the end of the day. But when people do go into, now, I can't remember him. I don't know whether he did, maybe I missed, but I can't remember him actually trying to put my address out there. I can't remember that happening. I can remember him, you know, saying get onto the Merseyside police, but he never actually put, as far as I know, I never remember them put me address out there, which is a good thing. But when they start doing that, they're trying to put you in danger. They really are trying to put you in danger. Yeah, and get you some hit back, especially when they're saying about you that you're not safe around kids. Well, and this another thing that creeps me, right? I would, do you know, when people say that, you know, oh, you're not safe around kids, or they make this off the cuff remark about, oh, this person is a map. That's what we have to call them now, don't we? A map. Do you know, that's someone that doesn't find it a horrific offense themselves, because you couldn't accuse anyone of being that. And I said this to Sean Atwood as well, because he was saying that I'll name them, Chancey and Wheezy and others are connected with them, could be, you know, maps. And I said to him, no, I'd never, ever, ever accuse anyone of that, no matter how much I dislike them, unless, you know, but actually I did once, when I remember I did, when I think of it. I got that furious, and I hated myself for doing it. Absolutely hated myself for doing it. But that was the only time.
Being through the cycle, the cycle of the site is, again, like how you react to it is going to be very different for everyone. But what I think about that is, I've been on the internet for a while, and there are various phases of slagging people off. Yeah. And this thing I think is like, it's like the boy who cried. This is just a way to shorthand slag someone. So like everyone's a nonce, or everyone's a pedo, or like whatever. It's easy.
Be careful what you say. Heather,
it's like, you know.
Heather, I'm going to interrupt you here, right? You have to be careful what you do. That's why I say map. If you say those words, YouTube pick up on it. It's going to affect the channel. That's why you'll find. That's why you find it.
I think in general, sorry about that. So, but the insult itself is a way to just slander someone, and it's a shorthand way to just go, like, you know. And it's a fad. Like, there have been various sort of fads I've noticed on the internet, from, you know, calling people gay, various versions of gay, like, or various versions of being mentally handicapped, that sort of thing. And this one, so this is like, when you're in that kind of, I guess, a troll, the edgy culture, there is that slander. And I think that this one, the map, is the newest one, because it's like literally everywhere, and everyone's calling everyone it. And surely everyone can't be, you know, it's being over applied, obviously, but it also becomes, to me, very dangerous to do that, because if now you're calling everyone that, it's like the boy who cried. It's like the boy who cried.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now everyone is this, and like, your proof is just trial by internet. And I'm sorry, that's actually not enough to like ruin someone's, like, you know, their entire life over that accusation, which is what happens when you get accused of, you know, or false, you know, assault of a sexual nature. You know, this is kind of, don't throw the R word around. It would be akin if everyone was calling everyone R words, you know.
Yeah.
On the internet, just to slang them. Like, you're an R word, like Oprah, you know, there's a car, you all get a car.
Yeah. When people go on about, you know, using these map words to insult people, it's difficult enough, and it is, because I know, because I tried, my God, I tried years ago to try and speak out about what I saw happening, cover-ups in the police force I worked for, which never got to a resolution. But you talk to people, or you try to get people away, you know, this is being covered up because these are powerful people in the city. And the response you get is, oh, that's terrible. Oh, what time's the X Factor on? Oh, that's terrible, isn't it horrendous? Oh, I've got to go home and cook the dinner. People don't give a damn, the vast majority of them. They don't want to accept it. They don't want to look at it. It's too difficult to look at. When people start throwing that around, that insult, what it does is it makes people switch off. It's no more different than calling us to say someone 4 eyes or fatty. They don't take any notes. It actually makes that word a nothing word. So people totally ignore it. Anyway, Christine, you've been far too quiet. We're talking here all the time.
No, I'm learning. I'm listening. I'm happy to input whenever you need me.
Oh yeah, what do you want? Do you want to add anything?
Actually, I've been able to communicate everything that I can think of right now. The importance of reporting, and don't let yourself get alienated throughout. After having reported, your victimization might continue until the perpetrators are brought to justice. But find your support system, whatever it is, and communicate what's happening. Don't stay quiet about it. It's not okay what's happening to you. It's a crime what's happening to you. And cyberbullying is definitely a crime. Cyber victimization, crime, cyber criminal activity, all of that needs to be reported. We have to stop this from happening to people. We want to save lives. We want to end victimization. It's all for the greater good of mankind. This affects us on a global level. It's affects a global problem. So
yeah, that's true. I mean, there's 7.5 billion people on the globe, and like 5.5 billion of them have access to the internet.
Yeah. Well, the fact is, if people don't start policing themselves, guess what? Governments will start policing it for us. And that's what you don't want. You don't want the government having to step in and say, right, if you can't police yourselves and behave yourselves, because it's what they'll decide is allowed and not allowed that you want to worry about. But it's a amazing discussion. We'll go on to this again because I think it's fascinating. But Christine, these information, these contacts that you've got in the FBI and all that, or you want to give any contacts that people can go to in written form, if you send them to me, my messenger, I'll put them later on tonight on the contents in this video, so people have somewhere to go to.
That was really good news to me about the FBI stuff, and that they will. That I feel like that gives like more hope to people if they're stuck in that position and they're like, what do I do? That there's something that the FBI will look into. That really good. And you said anywhere in the world. You said it doesn't matter, that IPC3, like you can report it from anywhere.
Yeah, you said.
Mm-hmm. And it asks what country you're from. Ask the country you're from. Ask the person who's victimizing you, the perpetrator's information, and where they're from. So yeah,
definitely send that to me and I'll put it on there. And just this one's got me attention. Fion, we get called trolls or haters for asking questions. Oh, that happens. My God, how many times you make a comment and say, because the person just like, oh, you're trolling me. And it's like, no, I'm not. I'm just asking a simple question. I'm not trolling you. I can think of a person name, a Mr. Wedger, who loves doing that. If you ask them, like, where's the money gone, John? Account for all the funds you raise. Why have they suddenly vanished? You get called a hater, a troll, or a person that worships the devil. But anyway, any last thoughts, Heather, and then we'll wrap this up.
No, I think I've communicated everything I really wanted to express today, and I really appreciate you having me.
Oh, we'll do other podcasts. Well, not just talking about this subject, other subjects as well. Because don't let it define you as well. This is an important thing. Your experience do not define you, as that's all that you're about. Heather, any last words of wisdom?
Well, just thanks again, for having me on. And it's been like a really lovely Monday bank holiday. In the UK here, it's a bank holiday. So I'm hoping everyone had a really lovely holiday. And I've had a great chat. It was really nice to talk with you, Christine. And and again, I just want to follow everyone says, we're speaking out against the cyberbullying, and I guess that's one of the things that you can do if it's in your power. And I thank you, Christine, for sharing something that is like really just deeply traumatic and disturbing on all levels. But I think it's shown us this is what's happening in the world right now, and we need to, you know, I think due to your efforts, as hard as those were, this guy is hopefully stopped in his tracks.
Yeah, hopefully
like, stopped in his tracks, and like that's all I like on my end. You know, this is like a symptom of you're like, are they going to go off and do that again? And I don't have much power over in most things. I have power over me in my life, you know. But if you're able to take a bully out, you know, or a sex pest out, you know, and deal with them and deal with these bullies don't expect it, especially when a little woman doesn't back down because they want to break you. And when you don't, they don't expect it. They don't expect it.
Don't expect it at all. But anyway,
so,
I'll say,
guys,
I'll
you,
leave
Christine,
it there.
because
thank you, because I think it's amazing. But we will carry on with this. But I say, Christine, it's not going to be just about the cyberbullying, because you're going to have more aspects. I can see it into house decor. I can see that I've been admiring your house behind you. Absolutely beautiful decor you've got there. So any subjects we'll talk about anyway. So God bless you all and take care. Okay. So, and to me lovelies in the chat, bye now. So bye-bye, darlings.
Bye.